What is going on with everybody? It is your boy Eric, aka Young God, coming to you live in the Green Dungeon, giving it to you real raw rugged. Had to hurry up to get it back home. I was doing a podcast before I did this. Didn't want to be late for this because this is an interview I've been anticipating, man. So I'm gonna let the person introduce themselves on the other line, man. Who do we have?
Hey there, it's Noah, also known, probably best known to you guys as PolyPhonic.
Hey, man, how you doing today?
Not too bad. Yourself?
I'm really hungry. I haven't ate anything today, so a little miserable, man. Have you ate today?
Yeah, had a big bowl of cereal.
What type of cereal did you eat?
Rice Krispies?
Hey man, I'm giving you a virtual high five, man. That's the only type of cereal I eat. I hate cereal, but
Rice Krispies are the best, man.
Man, you are the only human. We might be like weirdos because I swear I tell people that they're like, "You eat Rice Krispies?" Like, yeah, you're disgusting. Like, no, just because I don't eat your poverty toasted crunch flakes or whatever you call them. I don't know, man. Something about the Rice Krispies, perfect, man. Shout out to you.
Yeah, man. Rice Krispies are where it's at.
It's crazy. Like, what are some of your other favorite foods? Because I feel like your music taste is really interesting. So before we get to that, I feel like a lot of people who have like somebody on the YouTube. I don't know if you're familiar with Needle Drop.
Yeah.
So Needle Drop. So I'm cool with him. And I remember I was doing an interview with him one time, and he basically said that his music taste or his music rating, it may be looked upon as like really great and really good, but everything else, like movies, food, is just trash. So would you say that's the same thing about yourself? Like
I think I have good taste in movies, but
okay.
Absolutely, my food taste, I'm a really picky eater. I eat like basically nothing. So yeah, I would say most people would consider my food taste trash.
What are some of your not disfavorite? What's some of your least favorite foods?
All right. So I don't eat pasta. I don't eat rice. I don't eat most vegetables while I eat them because I don't want to die, but I don't enjoy the taste of them. Basically, I basically just eat like meat and pizza.
And that's really funny. I'm about to order pizza as soon as we're done with this interview. So there's that. Do you like Pizza Hut? You a Pizza Hut guy?
Oh yeah, Pizza Hut's where it's at.
Hey man, like we got the same. Looks like we got the same taste, man. Only thing I might disagree with you on is you said you don't like pasta. So does that include spaghetti?
Yeah, I don't eat any pasta.
Interesting. You said something else. You said spaghetti. You said rice, and it was one more thing.
I don't like vegetables very much.
You don't like vegetables very much. Now the thing. Oh, that's what you say. You don't like vegetables. You don't like the green things and whatnot. So very interested because I would assume that you are a white man. So I found this out a couple years ago that white people do not eat collard greens. So are you familiar with collard greens?
I know what they are, but I've never eaten them in my life.
Never. Would you have you ever been around collard greens? Like, have you ever been like in a place where it was like, oh, we're serving collard greens?
I don't really think so. No.
That's really funny. Yeah, shout out to collard greens. If you're ever around some collard greens, man, I would suggest you eat those, man. They're really good, man. So,
oh yeah.
Yeah, hey, man, I'm not a vegetable guy either, but something about collard greens. Do you like hot sauce?
I like hot sauce, but I have a super low spicy tolerance. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you could put like regular Texas Pete,
which is just like, again, classic white guy.
Yeah. That's interesting because usually like to go back, like usually on YouTube, I'm subscribed to like a lot of people, right? And I subscribed to you probably earlier this year, late last year. And I just have to say that you're amazing at what you do, man. So before we get full into this interview, man, like if I really had like the patience to like edit and do everything, I would definitely want my videos to look like yours, man. You're very, very in depth, and I love the video essay format. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure you get told all the time, but I just wanted to personally tell you that you're really good at what you do.
Man. I really appreciate it.
So basically, people who are watching this that are like really confused on who you are, can you please explain a little bit on what type of YouTube videos that you do make?
Yeah, so I do video essays, which are basically kind of just like little 5 to 10 minute mini documentaries almost. Highly stylized though. And I just look at interesting stories in music. I do a lot of dad rock, but I'm kind of all over the map. I try to just do any music that's interesting to me, any stories. Sometimes I'll do theory analysis. Sometimes I'll do lyrical analysis. Sometimes I'll just do kind of behind the scenes stories. Really just just telling little stories about the music that I love, and uh, hopefully the music that my viewers love, and teaching them new ways to love it.
Now, like you said, you're definitely a lot like all over the place with the genres that you cover. So I can never kind of like get a grip on what are your favorite genres.
So when I'm listening to, I mean, really, it really depends. It changes week to week. I like a lot of classic rock, obviously, and kind of stuff that's classic rock adjacent, but not actually really classic rock. Like I'm a big Bob Dylan fan, and
Mm.
I wouldn't really put him exactly right next to Led Zeppelin or something, but he's
Mm.
from the same era. Then I like jazz a lot, especially cool jazz. I really like. I'm a big Miles Davis fan. I like a lot of folk, a lot of blues. Really, basically, my rule when making videos is I make videos on things that I like. So if I've made a video on something, I like it. I've got pretty broad music tastes. I try not to discriminate. I don't want to be one of those guys who's like, oh, I like everything except rap and country, because I
Yeah.
mean I love a lot of rap, and there's some country I like. I struggle with a lot of country, but there's still a lot of country I like. Chet Atkins is the fucking bomb.
I've realized with country with me, I feel like I prefer more of like old country.
Yeah.
Something about old country has a little bit like I'm a really big R&B and soul fan, and I feel like
Oh yeah.
the best time period for that were the
I've
70s and like
I've
the
I've
70s.
been I've been getting in really into 70s soul lately. I've got a video that I finished editing that's coming out a few weeks about Stevie Wonder's classic period.
Mm.
So I've had songs in the key of life pretty much spinning on repeat in my house for the last week.
Would you say that you're like a R&B and soul like connoisseur, or are you still like trying to get into it?
I'm definitely not a connoisseur. There's like I think it's more the trying to get into it. Like I know the big stuff, and there's a couple names that I like that I know their stuff pretty well. Like Stevie Wonder, I really know
Yeah.
Stevie Wonder kind of inside and out. But then there's also a lot of stuff that I really am just scratching the surface of. I know when it comes to soul, I know Motown pretty well. I like a lot of Motown.
Well, yeah, I mean, hey, you definitely got a very big soul R&B fan right here. So I would definitely curate you a playlist of
Oh,
like,
that'd be awesome.
I'm very serious because like something that I realized about R&B and soul, and it kind of ties in about how I found you, because one of the first videos I found you was about like classical music. So we can get to that in a minute. But the thing that I realized about R&B and soul of why I think it's not so prevalent today and it's kind of fell off is because of two reasons. And the two reasons there are a lot of people really can't sing. Like they're relying on like studio effects and the engineer to
Mm,
chop up the vocals and things like that. And one of the biggest things is they took out live instrumentation. Now I
yeah.
think that live instrumentation, it evokes an emotion. So if you're listening to a trumpet or a saxophone or a violin or whatever you're listening to, it evokes emotion. So if you're not having any type of real vocals, which also of course is going to evoke emotion out of people, and you have no live instrumentation, where's the soul in that music, you know? So I think that's why R&B and like soul is not so prevalent today and it's not number one on the chart.
I think that's a really good point, because I mean, especially the thing that I love about old school R&B and soul is the instrumental arrangements. That's what I love about Motown. Like Phil Spector's like cascading horns and
Yeah.
strings, and like that's what's so great about Philly soul. I mean, the strings in Philly soul are just so lush. They feel like sitting in one of those really big poofy leather couches when you listen to it.
Yeah. No, that's a fact. Like I said, I definitely would curate you a little playlist of some essential R&B music, man. So
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I got you. But yeah, so to go back to how I found you with the classical music thing, it was it was the devil one of the like the
Oh yeah.
music. That's how I found you. And I was watching that, and for whatever reason, or not for whatever reason, I know why, but I have like a lot of just like random history of like classical music because growing up I went to an art school and I was in the band. It was a symphonic band, so
Oh
we had to
cool.
listen to a lot of like just very like classical music. We had to take tests on artists and stuff like that. So I know a lot about that. So when you were talking, I think it started back from I think the first person was Paganini, if I'm saying the name right.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was him, and I've heard the name before. So I'm watching and I'm curious, and yeah, it was just a really interesting video, man. Like I didn't know the story about what's the blues player? I forget his name.
Robert Johnson.
Robert Johnson, that's his name. I didn't know that, and that's just a really interesting story, man. So just the way that you craft videos, I feel like even though that you actually put images on the screen, I think it's a talent that you can actually still paint a picture. So if I was to close my eyes, I would still be seeing pictures, even though I could look at the picture on the screen. So I think that's a very unique little thing you add to your videos.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I think that's the big thing. Like the biggest guiding principle behind everything I do is I want to tell interesting stories. Like they can be new stories. They don't need to be new stories. They just need to be stories that I find really interesting. And I think that the story of Robert Johnson and the Devil, and the story of all these musicians and the Devil, I'm not really religious at all, but it's always kind of fascinated me, these weird stories of like encounters with the devil and haunted music and music being declared evil and stuff like that. Something about that. There's just something that I feel like obviously it's one of my more popular videos, so a lot of people are just drawn to that kind of stuff, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, and it's funny that you bring up popular videos, because I always like to ask people this who have like a lot of like views on their videos. Are there videos that you've made in your past and you're like, yo, this is gonna be the one, this is golden, and you put it out and it doesn't really do the effect that you thought it would, but you put a video out that you didn't per se dislike, but you're like, this is a pretty good video, and it just goes crazy and you wasn't expecting the praise in the video?
Absolutely, especially the later one. I mean, my Deals with the Devil, when I released that, I was like, I have no idea how this is going to do. Yeah. And then my biggest one of my biggest videos, the biggest video I released recently is Klaatu, the band everyone thought were the Beatles. I had no idea how that was going to do. I thought that was just going to be like a weird little video that I mostly just did for me because I thought it was a fun story. Yeah. And that thing's got almost 1 million views, which is crazy. It's got more views than my videos on the Beatles themselves, which my Beatles videos I always expect are going to do well because everyone loves the Beatles. Yeah. So yeah, that definitely happens to me all the time. Sometimes I have a gauge on these things. Like when I released my Jimi Hendrix video, it was one of my most requested videos. I was like, okay, I know that this one's going to do really well, but then every now and then you have ones that surprise you. And that's why I like to not always do the same stuff. I like to reach out and do some weird stuff, because one of my favorite comments to get is when someone says, "Oh man, I never thought I'd see PolyPhonic do a video on that." Because I like to surprise people. I got a lot of people saying that when I did my video on clipping, which I didn't expect would be popular, and it's not super popular, but it's better than I expected, and it's one where I'm like, this is just like a really cool, really good album, really interesting band, and yeah, I could do a video on Lynyrd Skynyrd and it would be really popular or something like that. But at the end of the day, I don't actually listen to Lynyrd Skynyrd that much. I listen to clipping all the time. So I wanna like display. I want to make videos that I would want to watch. Is basically one of my rules.
No, I definitely understand that. Like, especially from the point where people are like, yo, I didn't expect you to listen to this, or I didn't expect you to make this video. Like, because I review music, so I review an album, and they're like, yo, I didn't expect you to listen to this or whatnot. And that's always cool, I guess, to because you never want to, like, as this person that makes content, you never want to be predictable. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like when you put out a video, like, oh, he's going to put out a video on blank. You know, you want to be outside the box. So I feel like that's a lot of people's problems in general when trying to make it as an entertainer, as a musician or actor, anything. Like they're trying to hop in on like a trend or hopping on something that's like, of course you're going to do that.
Well, I think it's especially true once you've gotten big, because the way you got big was doing what you wanted to do. So if suddenly you start to try to do what your fans want you to do, that's not why they liked you in the first place. They liked you because you were just doing stuff for you. So I think it's important to try to keep that. And I think that's very true of a lot of musicians too. You see them get big and then kind of try to do stuff for what their fans want. And I mean, it's admirable to do stuff for what the fans want or for what radio wants or stuff like that. But at the same time, like all of the best artists, and one of my favorite artists ever is David Bowie. And David Bowie throughout his career did anything David Bowie wanted to do, right? Like he he got big as a glam rocker, then dropped everything and did some weird experimental stuff, came back and Blue-Eyed Soul, did some top 40 dance pop, ended his career on experimental jazz, right? It's just he did things that interested him, and the result was just incredible music.
I think the double-edged sword about that is you're definitely going to have the fans that's going to say, oh, I miss the old PolyPhonic. I miss when you used to do this and do that. You know, so when you're stepping outside of your comfort zone, or you're trying to be different, trying to experiment, like, oh, I miss the old David. I miss when he did this. So that's the double-edged sword with that. How would you deal with stuff like that?
Well, I think it's funny because I think a lot of the time people have one of my favorite, like, absolutely hilarious comments that I get is anytime I do a video on hip hop, people are like, oh, PolyPhonic is selling out, doing a video on hip hop. And I'm like, the third video I ever did, it was the first video I ever edited, the third I ever released. I had like 20 subscribers, was on Kendrick Lamar. I'm not trying to sell out. I just like hip hop and do videos on hip hop sometimes. So I think that is kind of a lesson you can take, is I think the old sound, a lot of the time when you listen to these artists that change, you hear some of the things of their old sound in this evolution. And I think the other side is just the old stuff is always there. Yeah. Like if I want to watch an old PolyPhonic video, the old videos haven't gone anywhere. They'll always be around, so you can always watch that. Whereas if I want to watch something new and an artist keeps making stuff that sounds exactly like the old stuff, like that's why I don't listen to much like AC/DC or something like that. Like all AC/DC sounds the exact same. And there's nothing wrong with listening to AC/DC every now and then. But at the same time, there's no point in listening to a new AC/DC album when all the old ones sound the exact same.
No, that's kind of like what Jay-Z said. Jay-Z, what did he say? He said, you said you miss my old songs, well, buy my old album. So
yeah,
it's there. But that's interesting. You said people say that you sold out because you do hip hop videos. How would that be exactly selling out?
I think it's just comes from so the video that got me big was my video on John Bonham. So a lot of my audience is kind of skewed towards that kind of classic rock fans, okay. And the purists who are like, oh, hip hop isn't even really music or something like that. And I'm like, I have no patience for that. I mean, I was like that in high school, so I understand it, but I have no patience for it. It's just such a, like, why would you intentionally close yourself off to an entire musical movement? But I think that's where people come from, and people know that hip hop is popular, and they think, oh, well, he must just be doing this to get popular because I don't like what he's doing. When in reality, if I wanted to do videos to get views, all of my videos that get the best views are classic rock. Yeah. And if I feel like I like really needed some views for some reason or something, I would release a video on Led Zeppelin or Jimi Hendrix or Hotel California or something like that. Like, the reality is, I think it's just people have trouble reconciling the fact that I might not have the exact same taste in music as them.
They put you in a box, basically.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it.
Well, no, it's two things that's interesting about what you said. And the first is being like, hip hop is so popular, so that's how they could be selling out. And that's just crazy to me, because once upon a time, hip hop was looked upon as like, oh, it's like the gangster lyric. It was like looked down upon, you know, it's like frown, like, oh, you rap. But now everybody does it. So I think that says something about the growth of hip hop, of just it's spiraling out to the point where everybody wants to listen to it. That's really crazy.
Well, I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of credit to hip hop as a genre because of that. Because I think this is going to be a weird analogy, but one of the reasons English has succeeded so much as a language is English is just this like weird bastardized language that picks things up from other languages and is super comfortable doing it. And I think that's one of the things that hip hop does well by virtue of sampling and just in general from there. Like hip hop, it's completely like, you'll hear a hip hop song. I mean, listen to like To Pimp a Butterfly. That whole album has like jazz samples, but then you can also hear I don't know, listen to Run the Jewels 2, and you've got some like rock themes in there. Like Close Your Eyes and Count to Fuck is basically a metal song with the Zach De La Rocha feature. Like, I think that's one of the really cool things about hip hop is, and one of the reasons why it's grown to take over the world is it's such a versatile, such a versatile genre of music that it's so happy just picking up all these little things. It's like, oh, EDM invented or EDM made drops really popular. Cool. I'll put the drop in a hip hop song and it'll work, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's I don't know if that's a fact though. You think that's how that went?
Well, I think that's part of the reason why hip hop has. I think that's part of the reason it's been so great. I mean, the drop might not be the best example because I guess the drop, like, the drop is this weird kind of conversation between EDM and hip hop because originally the drop was like your original DJs, right?
Yeah.
And then EDM kind of built it into the drop the way we think of drops today, and now hip hop has kind of reclaimed some of those EDM drops and does that kind of stuff. And I think that that's what hip hop does really well, and that's why I love it because it's its own unique thing, but it's also not afraid to take everything it likes about any other genre of music and shove it together.
It's interesting that you say that because I might be wrong, but something that I would have credit drops for in a lot of things in hip hop that I want to make a video about one day. I don't know when I'll ever do it, but I would have credit drops in a lot of things in hip hop to reggae music. And I say that because I remember one day my mom, she was playing a lot of reggae. It was like when I was really young, and I just really got into reggae. And when I listened to reggae, well, not reggae, dancehall specifically.
Okay.
Dancehall has a lot of I know reggae and dancehall are definitely different. So dancehall specifically definitely has a lot of like drops and a lot of like bass, like a lot of basses in dancehall. And that was before hip hop was putting a lot of basses on, because now when you listen to a hip hop song, you expect to turn it up and it's loud, a lot of bass or whatever.
Yeah.
That comes from like a lot of like bougie Bonton, like a lot of people in that era of dancehall, like in the early 90s, late 80s, a lot of bass was being put into music and a lot of drops were being put into music. So yeah, something that I wish I was like a little bit more popular on YouTube is like dance hall, like essay videos or whatever, because it's a credit to, I mean, it's I feel like it's responsible for a lot of things that it doesn't credit for. I don't know if you
I think that's actually a really good point because I think all of these things of EDM, which is one of the most popular genres, are taken a lot from dance hall.
Yeah.
Like I think and also like one of the biggest influences on EDM is drum and bass, which is hugely influenced by dance hall, right?
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. And I like I said, I feel like dance hall is one of those genres that is kind of gets overlooked. You know, it's kind of one of those genres that's not like an EDM where if you type in something about EDM, it'll pop up. Like a lot of people really don't know about like dance hall legend and things like that. So yeah, maybe.
I find kind of alongside dance hall, I don't know if it's something about everything kind of Jamaican people think of as reggae, but like. Yeah. Original ska, like, I mean, I love ska punk too, but like kind of original first wave ska, I think gets forgotten a lot about too. And original first wave ska is like really, really good stuff, right? Like really interesting stuff that I think also gets kind of forgotten about or just kind of lumped together with everything that is reggae.
Is there anything that you feel like is very slept on or very underrated that you make videos about to kind of make awareness about? Like, I kind of want people to talk about this, so I'm going to make a video on it.
That was one of my reasons behind making my video on clipping. I think Splendor and Misery and clipping in general are just one of the most brilliant acts working right now, and I think a lot of people don't listen to them, and I think I can understand why a lot of people don't because like they're mixing noise music with hip hop, and noise music is one of the least approachable genres of music, right?
Yeah.
But I think that that's a big one. And let me think. There's a lot of artists that I'm like, man, I wish I could do a video on this artist, but at the same time, it's an unfortunate reality that I do need to keep in mind. Like, the reality is that this is my job. This is how I make rent. And I don't like, views don't drive everything, but they are in my mind. And there's certain artists where I'm like, there's just like small artists that I absolutely love, but I'm not sure if there would be the audience for a video on them. Someday I want to do a video that's just like 5 little 2-minute video essays on smaller artists kind of smushed together.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe you could come up with like a different segment for that, and then
Yeah.
people know it's for that, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, the latest artist that, and I might still do a video on them, but the latest artist that I've been kind of obsessing over is Tash Sultana, and their stuff is on YouTube, and that's kind of how they got big. And Tash Sultana is just absolutely incredible. Just really, when I first listened to Jungle is the first track I heard, which is their big single, and it kind of floored me in a way I haven't been floored by a song in a long time.
What type of music do they make?
Kind of like ambient rock, I guess. Yeah, psychedelic, like lo-fi ambient rock.
Okay.
Just and it's one person with a like a ton of equipment and a sampler and a looper, and they just do absolutely incredible stuff. I highly recommend it.
Nobody knows the identity of the person.
No, it's they're gender non-conforming, so they is their preferred pronoun.
Okay. How do you spell it again?
So Tash, Tash, and then Sultana, Sultana, and also their live performances just have so much energy. It's really, really cool.
Okay, yeah, I definitely have to check that out. That's interesting. But I feel like that's what I was going to say. Yeah, back to because you said something interesting when we were talking about the hip hop thing, and you said in hip hop, I mean, in high school, you're one of those people that looked at hip hop. It's like I don't know, it's like it's all the same, it's all stupid or whatever.
Yeah.
What made you change your ideology on that?
Listening to hip hop. I mean, I think the thing is, I think in high school you just like want to prove so much, right? You want to prove you're so cool. And the thing is, even when I was like, oh, I don't like hip hop, I was listening to like the Gorillas and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah.
And you kind of have this idea, you create this idea in your mind. I feel like a lot of people still do it about top 40 pop too. For a long time, I hated top 40 pop. I fucking love top 40 pop now. Like, I don't love all of it, but there's some pop artists that I think are absolutely brilliant, and I just adore. And there's something super fun about just blasting a pop song and going wild. And I think that's one of the big things is I think people tie up so much of their identity into the music they listen to. So they're like, I'm a rocker, I'm a punk. And I was a punk in high school. And I think so a lot of the stuff came out of like being about, no, like I listen to like real good old school hardcore punk. I don't care about other genres. Like I'm running Black Flag and Dead Kennedys and Minor Threat and stuff like that. And everything else is garbage. This is real music. And I think people just tie so much of their identity up into the music they listen to, more so than I think other mediums. Like I think people do put a lot of value on the movies they watch and stuff like that, but it's not to the same level of like just the kind of vitriol that people have towards pop music or hip hop. Like it's not like a Marvel movie nerd is like rom-coms are terrible.
Yeah.
Whereas like a Led Zeppelin nerd, I've seen so many of them that are just like, oh, I will never listen to hip hop. I'd never listen to pop. Like, and it's like, why would you shut yourself out of that?
It's something about music where I don't know, people identify like with it so personally. And I talk about this all the time. It's crazy you bring that up because you said that people identify with it so much. And I always talk about how I think it's weird that we live in a society where people like kind of like go into a different bag right here. But I think it's weird that people identify with, I don't know, it's just like people identify with so much weird things when it's just like just political parties. Like, for example, I was talking about this. I was looking at a show called 60 Days In. It's basically a TV show where they take like 10 random people that are like never been to prison before and they throw them in jail for 60 days and they see how they last. And they were doing like little vignette, little interviews. And one of the chicks, they were like, hey, like, you know, tell us about yourself. And she was like, well, I forget her name. She's like, yeah, my name's Amy. I'm a right-wing, hard conservative. That's the first thing that like, if I meet a girl and I'm going on a date with her, I'm not like, I hope she wouldn't be like, hey, yeah, my name's Jessica, I'm right-wing, hard conservative. Like, that's the second thing that you gotta tell me about yourself. Like, it has to be more about yourself. So yeah, it's weird.
Well, I think a lot of people struggle to understand what their identity is, so they look for identities that they can adopt. And I think politics and music and things like this kind of give you an idea. Instead of like kind of letting people make their judgment about you, it's this like, no, I am this person. Yeah. I listen to this music, so you know exactly everything else you need to know about that. And it's like, well, no, people are complex, and I think when you reduce yourself to I am this or I am that, you're really doing yourself a disservice, because I think everybody is a lot of things.
Now, I was just thinking about that last night. I was like, the culture we live in, like, it's almost like somebody's all good or they're all bad. But
yes, absolutely.
Nobody's really like that. Like, you could find the worst human in history, and you could find something really good they did. Or you could find the best person in history, you find something that wasn't so good that they did. So the way that we look at people and like, oh, this guy's canceled, this guy's out of here, or this guy's great. It's like, nobody like that. We have to look at people, like you just said, people are really complex and they have many layers and facets to them. And that's for us to judge if we like it or not. But just to pretend like this person is just like an all evil or all holy person is pretty silly to me.
And I think you're doing a disservice to yourself and to everyone else when you make a judgment on somebody based on one thing.
Yeah, I feel like, well, I think that's like more of that comes from like social media, where everything is like fast food and all fast. So we have quick attention span. So we're not trying to do any critical thinking on if this person's actually good. It's like, oh, he did this, hate him. Oh, he did this, love him. It's not like, oh, this person did. Let me critically think and let me look up some more information. It's like, oh, see the headline, cool, I'm out of here. You know, it's very fast food and you don't really think too much.
Yeah, I agree completely.
I think that's why a lot of certain music is popular, because it doesn't involve too much thinking. It's just there and you're good. You know, you don't have to, like a To Pimp a Butterfly, that's not going to be an album that is listened to by a casual hip hop fan, because it involves some critical thinking, you know? Even the sounds are out there. So yeah,
I think this is one of the things that I love about Kendrick as an artist, is how well he's able to combine these two things, though. Because I mean, To Pimp a Butterfly is a very like out there, high concept album with some really brilliant stuff. But then also like who doesn't love jamming to King Kunta, right? Like, and I think it's brilliant. I mean, one of my favorite songs of Kendrick's for this reason is Swimming Pools, because it's like people listen to that song as a drinking song, and that's okay. But it's also about how alcoholism like is part of a rampant societal issue for the communities that Kendrick grew up in. And I think it's a really cool way of getting your message across, because a lot of people are going to listen to it as a party song, sure, and miss the message. But some people are going to see that message in there and think about it.
It's basically, my fuck, keep going.
Well, and if you just did it in like a very strange song that's super dense and esoteric, like you can talk to a cool message, but no one's going to actually listen to it. Whereas when you make a party song and then slip messages into that party song of, hey, maybe you should look at your partying, maybe you should reflect on yourself. I think that's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it's basically like a very smart way to finesse getting your song played on the radio. It's like, let me make it sound like it's about this, but it's really not about this. So yeah, that's just like a brilliant way to finesse people to being like, oh, let's play this on the radio. He's talking about drinking, but he's really
well. And this is one of the things that Rage Against the Machine have actually kind of said. There's a quote by Tom Morello where he's like, I've got a video coming out on them soon, and there's a quote where he's like, what Rage Against the Machine does is seduce people in with the music and then expose them to different political views through that. Yeah,
definitely. It's definitely a lot of like I guess when you hear it, it's like, oh, it's so hardcore, it's metal, but then when you listen to the lyrics, it's like he's like Zach is talking about a lot of like deep things in there. So yeah, that's a fact. But I guess to kind of backtrack again, something that I almost forgot to say, because I was asking you about making videos on people that are like are making things about that's not popular and trying to make it popular. One of the things that I had no idea about that was really interesting to me, you can correct me if I'm saying this wrong, so I'm pretty sure it is, it's the Jesus Christ video.
Oh yeah, Jesus Christ Superstar.
That was a really fascinating video to me. Like I've never heard of that. Didn't I like was very ignorant to all of that. And I watched it and yeah, that was just a really good video. Like how did you learn about that? Because I had no idea about that.
I just listened to the musical growing up sometimes.
Okay.
Like not even that much, but and then I kind of got into it eventually because I like musicals. I like musical theater a lot. And I one day started listening to that, and it just kind of floored me. It's just an absolutely incredibly crafted musical. So I kind of just I got into it, and then uh, one of the things with my making videos is a lot of the time I'll find myself listening to it a lot, and for whatever reason, one of the songs came on my Spotify, or I had a conversation that mentioned it or something, and I was like, oh man, I haven't listened to this in a while, and just was listening to it on repeat and was like, oh hey, well, I guess I should make a video on this then if I'm listening to it all the time.
No, yeah, I mean that's the most logical thing. Yeah, I appreciate that. That it was a really good video. It made me I didn't do it yet, but it definitely made me want to go back and listen to like the actual musicals. It's a
It's
very
a
interesting video.
it's a phenomenal musical. You should absolutely check it out.
I definitely will. I definitely only if you listen to the R&B playlist because I'm when
Oh,
you
oh, I will gladly listen to the R&B playlist.
lastly though, for me, something I always like to ask people that do YouTube is like, who are people on YouTube that you watch? It doesn't even have to be music related. It could be, but just people that you enjoy watching on YouTube.
Well, in the music realm, I'm a big fan of, and I talk to him all the time and stuff too. Volksgeist, uh,
Okay, I'm
who,
familiar with them. Yeah.
yeah, he does basically what I do, but more hip hop focused. Um, and then here, let me open up my subscriber feed and see what I've got here.
Okay.
I watch a lot of video essays. People like I love the Nerd Writer. I watched a lot of Every
Great
Frame of
YouTuber.
Painting.
Yeah.
Um, PBS Idea channel when it was still on was one of my favorite things. Um, and then really I watched a whole lot of stuff. I watch a lot of political stuff. Stuff like ContraPoints is one of my favorite channels. And but then also just like a lot of history videos. Invicta does really cool history stuff. Really,
Mm.
I'm kind of always watching YouTube. I think it's one of the fun parts is of my job is I get to watch YouTube and pretend like I'm doing work, um, pretend like I'm doing research. But really, I'm all over the map. I watch movie stuff, Cinema Sins, Honest Trailers, like those ones. But then also, I'm a big hockey fan,
Mm.
so I watch some hockey YouTubers. I'm all over the map really, but my favorite stuff usually is video essays, and I'm always looking up new video essays and new video essayists.
Well, I'm a really big history buff, and you said a history channel, and I didn't catch it, so I definitely.
Invicta's awesome.
How do you spell it? Is that Invicta? I would imagine.
Yeah, INVICTA.
Okay, okay, yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Yeah, I definitely love history, and I'm so mad I couldn't do it because I was doing this podcast and it distracted me, and I was supposed to do it, but I was meaning to watch before I did this interview your Vietnam War music.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to watch this. I'm gonna watch it when we're done. I'm mad I didn't watch it beforehand because I want to talk about that. But yeah, that's like just history in general is really interesting to me, and I could tell like you would have to be interested in history to do the type of videos you do because you go back in history and you
Oh,
know educate.
absolutely. Well, and I think it's so interesting. The Vietnam War one, especially, just like it's so interesting the ways that music ties into history sometimes, because like music is intrinsically tied to a lot of historical movements.
Yep.
And I think that's really cool too. I mean, another person that I'm working on a video on that's super tied to kind of the history of civil rights and stuff like that is Nina Simone.
Mm.
And she's such a fascinating historical figure. And I love doing videos on artists like that who are tied not just to music and not just to music history, but intrinsically tied to world history and shaped the world through their music. I think there's something absolutely brilliant about that. And I think it's super cool.
No, it's really interesting you say that because just probably like a couple months ago, I had to write an essay and we had to write from a historical figure point and like we had to like, let's say if I was like President Obama and I was writing when he seen Osama get killed or whatever. But
Yeah.
I read from Fred Hampton's point, and that's a former Black Panther who was killed by the FBI. And just
Okay.
like doing like research on that, you see a lot of like music tied to it. So like, let's say if you're watching a Fred Hampton or a Black Panthers documentary, so you watch 3, 75% of the chance you're going to hear 4 songs played in those, like the same songs played in each of those documentaries, because it's like some of those songs were pivotal for that era for the Black Panthers, you know? So yeah, that's a great point you make right there.
What are some of those songs? I bet you Strange Fruit has to be one of them, right?
No, because Strange, that's a little bit like after that period, because Strange Fruit,
Oh yeah,
where people were getting like lynched and stuff, that's like more of
yeah,
like,
but Nina Simone did an incredible. If you haven't heard it, Nina Simone did an incredible cover of Strange Fruit on the backdrop of the civil rights movement. It's really cool, and also Nina Simone, like Mississippi Goddamn, is just an absolutely incredible. Yeah, what are some of the songs that always appear?
A lot of the songs are like you'll hear like a Marvin Gaye's like What's Going On, like anything from that album you will find on like a what do you call it, on like a Black Panthers documentary, or
that's one I've got in the Vietnam video too, like because that whole What's Going On is so relevant to the era.
Such a good album. Like I listened to the album and I'm like, yo, this is a really good album, man. This is a really good album.
Yeah. That's like basically a perfect album. Like there's nothing you could do to that album to improve it other than listen to it again.
Hey, that's a fact. That's nothing you can else do to improve that. And I'm listening to it. I mean, I'm just watching these documentaries, like you said, like What's Going On. There'll be a couple like who else? I can't even think off the top of my head, but like there'll just be like certain songs, and it's just like, whoa, like I can like there's just I think it's War. I think it's this
oh yeah, Edwin Starr.
Yeah, stuff like that. No, not the song War, but there's a R&B.
Oh, the group War. Yeah.
Group War. They have a couple songs that we played throughout like all of those documentaries, and yeah, I just think, like I said, it's really interesting how music can be tied to a certain point in history, and it's almost like you can't learn that history without knowing that music. That's what really inspired me to do my Vietnam video, was just like the way that some of these songs, like if you play Fortunate Son by Creedence Clearwater Reviver, like everyone has the same images of their mind of like helicopters descending over Vietnam and like boots walking through the swamp and stuff like that. And it's just so incredible to me how interconnected these things are, or just the way that like playing again from that era, some of the hippie songs, like you play Time of the Season by the Zombies and you just picture like a bunch of hippies in San Francisco at Haight-Ashbury and stuff like that. Like it's so interesting how these songs can take such visceral connections to a historical image in our mind. And that's why when you say that, like when people identify with music, I think that's why, because it can have such a historical like impact. So if it has like such an historical impact on that time, I can imagine somebody within that time holding really tight to that music, you know, like let's say somebody loves, I don't know, a certain rapper and they're rapping about a certain situation that they're living in, they're going to forever just be like indebted to that, because like, yo, this person is making music for me, you know? So yeah, music is it's one of those, it's definitely like a very, very special thing. It could be used for bad and it could be used for really good. So
yeah, I think it's an incredibly powerful force, and that's why I'm happy to always be exploring it and finding new ways to look at it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I said, I really enjoy your videos, man. I definitely am a huge fan. So if there's anything else you have to say before we get out of here, please let the people know.
No, thanks for watching my videos. Like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. Oh, my other new message whenever I get interviewed that I tell people is call your parents. It means a lot to them. Call them and say hi.
I just made a video where I basically said, you got to love the people that surround you, because you never know when is the last time you're going to talk to them. So.
Exactly. Well, and I mean, I couldn't do what I do without the support of my parents and my fiance and all the wonderful people in my life. So I think it's really important. Every now and then people need to be reminded that to just acknowledge the people that make your life good, and and maybe some of you don't have great relationships with your parents or whatever, but there's someone in your life that just that's done a lot for you and made your life what it is. So always be aware of that and recognize it and thank them. I know it's a little corny, but I figure I've got a platform, might as well use it to spread a good message.
Nah, man, I'm gonna need somebody to give you a Nobel Peace Prize, man. You're nice. you're one like you came on, you're just like, yeah, man, yeah, and I don't. You can make the playlist for me, man. I don't like collard greens, but I'll try it out. You're just such a nice guy, man. Like I don't know.
Well, thanks, man. I'm Canadian, so it comes naturally.
Yeah, I always hear Canadian people are really nice. This is actually like one of my first times having like dialogue or diatribe with a Canadian person. I see.
Where do you live?
I'm in Florida, so I'm pretty sure you heard a lot of crazy stuff about Florida.
I do hear a lot of crazy stuff about Florida.
I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the Florida man meme, but
yeah,
it's crazy. Have you ever been down here?
No, I have been almost nowhere in the States. I've been to I've been 2 places in the States, and I bet you if I tell you both of them, you'll be able to guess why. I've been to Vermont and Utah.
I don't know. I don't know what's out there, to be honest with you.
I ski.
Ah, that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. Yeah, is there anywhere you want to like explore out to go in the States?
Oh, absolutely. I really want to go to New Orleans, like just as a music enthusiast, especially someone who likes jazz and the blues, like New Orleans, and I really want to go to San Francisco because I really like psychedelic music, and I'm fascinated by the counterculture movement there that kind of grew out of Haight-Ashbury. And then also I really want to go. I don't even know if there's really like tourist sites to see, but I love the blues. So I'd love to just like kind of drive around the Mississippi Delta a little bit and see kind of the land that Robert Johnson was singing about and stuff like that. Like that's my real fascination with the States is there's so much music history tied up there. So there's a lot of places that I'd like to go for that reason.
Is there any cool Canadian history that we probably don't know about because we're just ignorant Americans?
Oh, there's a ton of cool Canadian history.
Like, is there one that like you like just like, I don't know, it's like just a factoid about like Canadian like music history that like a lot of people probably don't know, but like you just like, oh, it's a really cool fact.
About Canadian music. Well, I mean, one of my Klaatu, the band that I did that video on, they're Canadian, and I always think that's weird. I mean, I think the biggest thing that's crazy, and I've done a video on him after he died, is the Tragically Hip are this band in Canada that are like, they are the biggest band in Canada. They're a cultural icon. There's something like when Gord Downie died, the New York Times obituary to try to like explain what he meant to the States described him as, one second, let me see if I can pull it up.
Yeah.
Described him as no, I can't, but basically like Bob Dylan, Michael Stipe, and Bruce Springsteen all tied up in one figure. Like, and that's what he means to Canada. He's this cultural absolute giant, and the Tragically Hip are this incredible band that sing about what it means to be Canadian and what Canada is, and nobody outside of Canada knows them. So I like sharing the story of the Tragically Hip. I always think that they're absolutely really cool.
I'll definitely try to check them out. And
also another really neat music story. This one isn't Canadian, but I'm half Estonian, and Estonia got part of the way that they got free from the Soviet Union was a revolution called the Singing Revolution, which happened when Estonians from all around the country got together and sang traditional folk songs in defiance of the Soviet Union. It's a really, really cool historical story. So look up the Singing Revolution and you'll learn some pretty cool stuff.
No, I really have a lot of research to do after this interview, man. That's why I had to interview you, because I knew I would get some stuff out of you, man. So yeah, I definitely appreciate it. Until everybody watching, until next time, I say what I mean what I say. Haters gonna hate, players gonna play. You guys holler at your boy. And